kind of just see this this experience relating to the events of the world today and kind of what we're all doing with the projects and you know, the intent and the focus that we have here, which is to help others wake up, you know, to try and help them to see something, something different than, you know, of course, that they've always seen. This experience was, I was looking at a giant chessboard, and all of the pieces on the opposing side, you might say, were organized in such a way to where everything looked rock solid. There was actually even a bunch of little pebbles on each of the little squares, on some of the chess squares. And I knew that if I could find, I was essentially looking for one of them, just one of those little points to go after. And if I was able to get in there, or if I was able to sort of exploit that like a weakness, then you know, the whole thing would fall apart essentially, because from the outer, from like at a first glance, it looked very rock solid. Every piece was defending everything. Everything was so-called or seemed to be defended. Everything was, you know, again, like rock solid. These little rocks had that impression. But I kept looking at it and I kept looking at it, and all of a sudden I found it. I found this one little part. I found this one piece that was essentially the weak link. It was essentially something that was overlooked, and I was able to actually take advantage of that. And again, it's not so much about a chess game, really. Yeah, it can be that, but it's again more so with the events of the world today, what we're doing. Yeah, I just wanted to share that experience, that, you know, being creative, getting on kind of with the challenge, getting these things, focusing on getting some of these things done, just kind of seeing what's next. So I wanted to share that with everybody. Thank you.
See, that gives you the idea that there's always another way. And so what they're doing in their minds is they're boarding themselves up, you see. You know, just like the old kings and whatever, inside their castles, feeling safe because they built this giant castle. They put a moat around it, you know, the water around it with the bridge and the crocodiles and all this stuff. And they can draw up the bridge, and they've got the big door that, you know, takes 5 guys with a giant chain to lift up, and all these things. You know, it's so funny that, again, it shows how afraid they are. See? And the so-called common people that, you know, just work the land or whatever, like the farmers down here, they don't have all that. They don't do any of that, do they? Yeah, and the birds and the animals, they don't do any of that. Oh yeah, they build nests, they build little houses or whatever, but they don't build giant castles and strongholds and what have you. And so again, and how were they able to do all this? Because they, you know, got together in gangs at first and intimidated others, stole, you know, possessions and money and valuables from others, or got them to work as slaves. You know, like Pharaoh and the 10 Commandments and all that. It's an old thing, etc. And so again, these people are the most afraid. That's why they're boarding themselves up, because they're thinking in their own minds that, oh, you know, we don't want to, you know, lose what we've stolen. I know it's so funny, and there's really enough for everyone. But again, it's their own fear that they're locking up, because they are more afraid. It's so interesting, isn't it? So as you're walking around this, and yes, it's just that. It's just a thing. It's just a place. And just like that, you're walking around it. There's many sides to it. And yeah, there's an opening, because they need an opening to get out too. They're not going to completely board themselves up. You know, kind of like when the Pharaoh or somebody died, you know, they locked themselves in their chambers, and actually they spent more than lifetimes in there. And sometimes they, you know, did the servants too, because they didn't want to be lonely. You know, they wanted to be with somebody else, but the servants all of a sudden, you know, they weren't told they were going to be in there, but they were trapped in there too. They died in there too. And so, Yeah, and it is. It's a big chessboard. It's like a, game of Monopoly or a poker game. And so you're seeing it objectively, and this is good. You keep getting these views because this helps you as you're going along, because it takes a lot. And I've seen so many people, and for years, they'll be around for years, and they'll take all this in, and all of a sudden one thing, they're gone. Just that one thing, it's like they bought their ticket for somewhere else and they're gone. And sometimes they even go back to their old spiritual past. They just say, oh, this is all baloney, etc., or whatever, or I did that, or what have you, seen it before. And so, no, it's a huge course that goes on and on and on with the guidance, but, each person decides. But yeah, that's good. And so again, they're doing that because they're more afraid. That's all. And all you have to do is let them know that, hey, you don't have to be afraid. You see, you don't have to be afraid. And you can have all the stuff you've stolen. It's all yours. It's fine. Nobody cares. Just you can be okay. Just let them know that. But anyhow, so no, that's really cool, Jeremy. And because you yourself, you're facing it, so you get to see this. Now, people that don't step up and don't face it, they don't really see it. They don't understand it. And for the most part, they're subliminally controlled and they're afraid themselves. So until you face it and see that it's not what you really think it is. And all the laws and restrictions and everything are based upon fear and intimidation, just like when you fill out your tax form, the very bottom where you sign the signature under the penalty of perjury. They put that there because they want to use the fear factor to intimidate you and get your agreement. That's basically the only way they can do it. You see, otherwise it's like, why should I fill out the stupid form? I don't need to, you see? But they use intimidation to do it, and it's like, if you don't do your taxes or pay your taxes, it's this or that. It's all fear-based. And so, yeah, you get better views of it, but you're stepping up, which is good because that's what it takes for you to see, and you're allowed to see what's really going on so you can get through this. Yeah, and it's a heck of a lot, more than you can imagine. The best part is what you don't know. And this is where many people stop. They don't get into the part as to what they don't know or cannot consider, because that's reality. You have to learn to see it. And that's huge. Yes, thank you, Jeremy. That's great. Thank you.